It's 12:28. Shall we go ahead and get started?
Yeah.
Okay, let's call this meeting to order. Let's stand for the, oh, you want to give us some, Chuck, are you our leader today?
Yeah, I'm the leader. I'm the host. With just the usual thing, it's a matter of manners. When you're not speaking, please mute yourself so we don't get any background noise. And that's about it.
That's about it. Okay.
Oh.
Mind your manners. Okay.
Before you mute us, I wanted to ask, is the thing tonight still going to be on?
Yeah.
Because I'm just concerned, you know.
We were just talking about the fact that it's very open and spacious, and you don't have to sit close to anybody. So I feel very comfortable. Okay. Let's stand, and Beverly is going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance today.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And then the pledge to the
Honor thee, Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Yeehaw!
I am going to mute everybody until unmute yourself before you speak.
Okay. What?
Okay.
Do we have any guests today? I don't see any guests today.
Well, I have the speaker, but I'll introduce her later on.
Okay, okay. We have two birthdays this week. The first one is Tom Uhl. How do you pronounce that last name? U-H-L. We should know how to pronounce that. I should. Well, you're muted, Mim, so.
I would pronounce it Uhl.
Uhl, okay.
Like you are.
His birthday is the 1st, August the 1st. And Gaylord birthday is August the 3rd. Happy birthday, yay.
Thank you. Just send cash.
April 1, 1916, wasn't it?
Now, Chuck said we were supposed to be nice. Didn't you hear him say that?
He said, mind your manners, but we don't know whose manners are what.
Oh, okay. Well, let's get started. Tommy Cowan is going to talk with us for a few minutes about the vision screening program. Tommy, you're on.
All right, and I think I'm unmuted, so if you can't hear me, it's your hearing, not my talking. We did get the great news that we have been approved by AISD board and superintendent, line superintendent, by the way, for our pre-K3 vision screening in AISD. It is estimated there will be not 27 schools, but 37 schools this year. Robert and Rudy have already agreed to be our captains for the North and South zones, but the only stipulation change that we have made in the past we've done is that we need to get a copy of everyone's driver's license. I've received about 8 or 9, but I know I don't have all of them, and some of them are in the mail. But I desperately need you to have those. We've got to do a background check. Patty's agreed to do that through the blind school. When we appear at the front desk as we check in, if they confirm that we got our right driver's license, we're allowed in. If we're not, we're going to be held outside the door. So it's imperative if you want to work with Robert and Rudy, I know that's a hard task to accept, but if you want to work with those guys, you need to turn in your driver's license. You can mail them.
Turn them in tonight.
You may turn them in to me tonight. I will be there tonight. But the mailing address, get your little pen and pencil paper out, 5407 Bull Run, not Bull Shirt, but Bull Run Circle, Austin, Texas, 78727. Okay. Now you should have a couple of notices in your mail with that address on there. Come tonight, give it to me. But on Monday, I have to turn them over to Patty. She has them back by the end of the week, and then we're set to go. We'll start our screening in September, probably about the first or second week in September. So we got to have all this in place. Thank you so much, line boss.
You bet.
Tommy,
Okay, and all he needs is a copy of the front side of the driver's license. He doesn't need the back, just the front side copy.
That's correct.
Tommy, if I
Okay.
scan it and email it to you, can you print it out?
I can do that. You may email it to me.
Okay.
Okay, does anybody have any questions on Tommy before we move on?
I just want to say, for the sake of Sheri as a guest and her guest, we vision screen children K through K4 in every AISD independent school, and also in some private schools. And so that's what this is all about. Just so
It's not, wait. It's not K4. It's pre-K 3.
pre-K,
Three.
I'm sorry, pre-K 3. I apologize.
Okay.
We were able to do it last year, so we're gung-ho to do it this year.
Right.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else have any questions of Tommy? Okay, then we're going to move on. Robert is going to talk about, he went to the Lions District 2S3 cabinet meeting. So he's going to give you some information about how about the cabinet meeting.
Thanks, Lion Boss. The cabinet meeting was at Pflugerville. It was in their Lions Hall there. They have a beautiful facility, worked very well. There were about 50 people there at the Lions from all around our district. And they had one of the highlights of that was the goal for the district is to have 2 new clubs formed. They've already got one in Cameron, and it's the Cameron Evening Club, and they've got that started already. So they're well on their way to where they want to go. A few things that came up there were they're starting to have a reading program that's in the development stages right now. And I would like to point out one thing that they've got. The district has a great website, got a lot of information on it. And if you're interested in any of that, just go to let me see here. It's lionsdistrict2s3.com. They've got a lot of information there. It was good to talk to a lot of people from around the district and the events that they're having. A lot of people are falling into the category of having a casino night. Seems to be a very successful and a lot of fun. And to talk to some of them, they've done very, very well with it. Let me see, what do we got? Oh, there's a casino night coming up in Schertz, and that's out down by San Antonio, and a shrimp fest in Canyon Lake. Real good events, and they're very, very profitable. Let me see, just in a reminder, the next district meeting is going to be in Lockhart on the 16th of October. And our midwinter conference is scheduled for the 29th, and that's over in Hutto.
Of January.
January, yeah, pardon me. Okay.
You didn't say.
Okay. Let me see that. There's one thing I'd like to mention and bring it to, maybe Tommy can comment on this. They had mentioned with regards to getting certified, and there's this training in Buda, a vision screening training in Buda coming up here shortly. Is that something that if you've been screened before, do we have to get rescreened, or is that, do you have a comment on that, Tommy?
Yeah, the screening that we had here last year is for 3 years. So if you were screened then, you do not need it. And I would have to say at this point, the rule is if there is a single person at the event that is screened, all the rest of the people do not have to be screened. So I will be at all the school events, so don't worry about that one. Sam may have some comments regarding the community events. Sam, I think you're screened, so you would be the person there that would be, quote, held accountable or in charge. But we only have to have one at the event. I would encourage everybody to go if they've got time to go do that. It's never a bad deal to have alternative screeners. We have 2 cameras working. Sam's got one and I've got one.
Great.
Okay.
Thanks, Tommy.
You bet.
I think that's about it. I'll pass it back to Lion Boss.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions of Tommy before we continue? Okay, then it's time to move on to our program. And Mim, I think you're going to introduce the speaker in the program. Oh, wait, JP has a question.
Just a comment. This morning I received, and I presume, Glenda, you also received a notice from the Texas Lions State Office that there is a shoe drive. Do you recall receiving that?
No, I didn't receive it, or I didn't receive it yet, no.
Well, the Gonzalez Lions Club is promoting a statewide shoe drive, and they said they've already sent about 5,000 pairs of used but serviceable shoes. So I've just mentioned it, that if anyone has any, that they're coming to the social this evening. If you will bring them, I will take them with me to Kerrville when I go for the Council of Governors meeting the first full weekend in August. I know it's short notice, but if you can look through your closets and see something there that you're never going to wear again, but it's still serviceable, throw them in a bag and bring them tonight, and I'll be glad to take them down to Kerrville.
Now, are they looking for, like sneakers and things like that? What about high heels and stuff like that? Did they?
There was no specification of what kind of shoe, as long as it's serviceable.
Okay.
If it's got a broken heel on it, or
Well, I wouldn't do
torn
that.
or something like that, no, it's not serviceable. But as long as it's serviceable, that's all. It was only requirement I saw.
Does athlete's foot count if I've got a pair that's got athlete's foot infection in it? Will they take those?
If you'll furnish the powder to go with it, that'll be fine.
That's fine. Okay.
Tom, you can leave your high heels.
Okay, I think it's time for.
What am I going to do with my dark hose, Mark?
All right, folks, let's, Mim, I think we're ready for you. Thank you.
Well, Sheri's going to think we're a real loony group. Anyway, I'd like to introduce to you smart, sensational, and very resourceful Sheri Soltes. She went to the University of Texas, Tommy, and et al., and got her law degree from UT. And while working, she saw a passion. Yeah, the passion is something that's going to help people and dogs. And what this nonprofit, she started the nonprofit group. It was initially Hearing and Service Dogs, and now it's Service Dogs Incorporated. She and her team go to shelters, dog shelters, and select dogs that meet their criteria, bring them to their training center, and then train them to help the disabled. Very special skill, very special talent. And it's a win-win in every case. Now, the group depends very mightily on their big fundraiser, and it's the Texas Mighty Dog Walk. I might get the name wrong. And it's scheduled for November. So we may be very interested in helping as volunteers, certainly helping to take our dogs there, show them off in costume, and to pick up a few of the freebies they give away, which are excessive. So Sheri, it's your turn.
Thank you. Can y'all hear me? Good. I'm Sheri Soltes, and I appreciate Ray Hambright joining me. Ray, if you want to wave. There's so many lines in this club. It's like 2 screens of completely full. So thank you for the wonderful attendance. And thank you for the invitation, a nice introduction, Mim. Service Dogs, Inc. is like a guide dog school, but we train the cousins to guide dogs. Hearing dogs that alert people with a hearing loss to sounds. They nudge you to get your attention and you go, what is it? And they lead you to the sound. So you'll be aware of the door knock, the phone, the baby's cry, and on the smoke alarm, they spin. So they don't take you to the smoke alarm. They just indicate with that behavior that it's a smoke alarm and you can evacuate the house. Service dogs for people with mobility related challenges like Ray work a lot with people in wheelchairs or with other assistive devices. They do a lot of picking up things people drop, turning wall switches on and off, picking up something that you may have in the refrigerator. They can open the door and bring you a non-alcoholic beverage. They can help with laundry. If you have an arm or a leg that maybe falls off the armrest or the foot pedal, the dog can take its nose and nudge it back into position. So we train all of the service dogs in some basic behaviors, and then we custom train them to what the individual wants in the last few months of training. And we do all of this completely free of charge. And we're finishing our 33rd year. I founded the organization in 1988 in August. So we're almost done with the 33rd year. The programs we added more recently are 2 types of facility dogs. So instead of working with a disabled partner like a guide dog or a hearing dog, they work with a facility like a courthouse. The courthouse dogs work with district attorney's offices to help children when they have to testify about trauma. And they have found that you get a lot more convictions, and it's pretty moving. And a lot of times the children want to come back and visit just to see the dog, even after the trial's over. In the case of the first responder facility dogs, they are working with hospitals, with fire stations, with paramedic stations, with sheriff's offices. They help first responders and frontline workers with mental health. 10% of those folks are veterans that are transitioning back to civilian jobs. But in 2017, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services had a study that firefighters have a 30% higher rate of suicide than the public, and more police officers die from suicide than on the job injuries. And this was prior to COVID and the Texas winter storms. Austin Travis County is on our wait list for their first facility dog, as is the Kendall County Sheriff's Office, which is Bernie. And we have 4 in San Antonio and 1 in the Rio Grande Valley that works with about 1,800 first responders. So we also really value helping the dog. So we get the dogs from animal shelters, and we adopt a few career change dogs from, I don't know if that was us or somebody else, but.
Sorry about that, guys.
Anyway, we adopted dogs from shelters and from, oh, he just hung up, from Guide Dogs for the Blind out of California. And I'll call Ray back because I was just about to introduce him. It's always something, as Rosanna Dana says.
I can hear y'all. Y'all can hear me.
All right. Ray, we're honored to have Ray as a client. Ray lives in Fayetteville and is a U.S. Marine and was also a fire chief for 20 years. So Ray, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and Beatrice?
First of all, I'd like to say that I belong to a Lions Club, and it's much like yours, mostly older people.
Ray, can you go, let's mute Ray on the, maybe that's the feedback.
Ray needs to be unmuted. He's given feedback through you.
How's that, the better?
Okay, then can you hear Ray without the phone?
Okay. No, I'm just.
Oh my God, the audio works. Okay, go ahead, Ray.
Okay, good. I belong to the Lions Club in Fayetteville, and we're all in our later years. We have about the same number of people. Excuse me. And one of the Lions Club members got me in touch with Sheri, and I got into the program, and I got a dog, of course, named Beatrice. Beatrice and I lost my wife about 2 years ago to cancer. And me being in a wheelchair, can't do anything. I really needed help. I didn't think about a guide dog till somebody told me about that. So I finally got one, and it is a lifesaver for me. I have somebody with me at all times, a companion. If I drop something, like Sheri said, let me tell you one of the neatest things she does to me. She does my laundry. Now, I know that sounds funny, but I tell her to go get the basket. She brings the basket into the room. She takes everything out of the basket and puts it in the washer. I have plenty of loaders. When it's through, I call her back. She takes it out of the washer, puts it into the dryer. When that's through, she hands them to me one at a time, either fold them or put it on a hanger. Now, how many people do that? You know, it's There's 100 other things. I have a bag of medications on the middle of the house, and I always practice it. Meds, don't get my meds. And she goes gets me nitroglycerin, my alert buzzer, that medical alert buzzer. All that's in a bag. She brings it to me all the time. So she is a godsend. She can get water out of the refrigerator. There's so many things I can't even name them all. But she's this. If it was legal, I'd marry her. I swear I would. And by the way, how many people say Beatrice and the others say Beatrice?
I say Beatrice.
You're the only person I've ever met that says Beatrice. Everybody says Beatrice.
Wow.
I don't know if it's a Texas thing or what.
Ray also
That's
shared.
not true. I say Beatrice too. Yeah.
Okay. Maybe it's the older people that do it. It's called Beatrice.
So now that you've been living alone, can you tell people a little bit, because they can't really see, a little bit about the physical challenges that you have?
I have above the knee amputation. I have other stuff with me from Agent Orange, heart disease, kidney disease. My spine is deteriorating. I have to go get trigger shots in my back, and I did that yesterday. That's why I feel much better right now. But yes, I'm very limited. I cannot get out of this chair on my own. And she's a godsend. Don't know what I'd do without her.
That's a little bit of the overview, and I can keep talking unless I know we have 20 minutes, so, and I'll count on Mem to tell us when we've used up the time, but we'd love to answer some questions for you also, if you have some. Sure, Mr. Armstrong.
Roughly how long does it take to train the dogs that you adopt from shelter? Because we're used to, the puppies being raised to be service dogs, and I'm just curious about the additional time and effort it takes to prepare a shelter dog to be a service dog.
It takes about double the time. So we can move a shelter dog through the program in 12 months and the guide dogs more in 6 months because of the puppy raising. And they've already gone through some or all of the guide dog training and been released typically for a reason that doesn't bother us. Like one dog liked children too much. One dog didn't want us to walk through puddles. So those are things that we can work with. So it doubles the time. We did only rescue dogs for the first 30 years or so, and then the population shifted in the shelter. So we started incorporating the career change dogs from the guide dog school.
Thank you.
That's where this came from. She's not a pound dog.
Ray's dog is one of the guide dogs for the blind career change dogs.
Ma'am?
Sheri, how do you select, what are the criteria used to determine if, well, especially with the shelter dogs, if they're appropriate for your program?
We use young adult dogs. We want them to have at least a 10-year working life. And so the training takes a year. So young adult, once they're 18 months old, if they're dysplastic, it'll show up on an x-ray if the hip joint is not firm. We want a dog that's people oriented, that when you walk by the kennel run, it walks up. Once we get the dog out, we want a dog that might be interested in following a ball, that has a retrieve drive, or if it's going to be a hearing dog, if you set off a timer, it either goes to the timer or at least sort of tilts its head to be aware of that. We still have the dogs sort of on probation for a while after we get them. So most of the dogs get released because they're not comfortable in public. If they're afraid of one or two things, we can get them through that. But if they're just afraid of every new thing, they're not going to be good to turn over to a client. But any dog we get from a shelter that doesn't finish the training, we'll adopt out as a pet, and we'll continue to work with it so the dog has a good life with us and in the future as well. Something else I can talk about while you all probably know this better than most audiences, that the service dogs and the hearing dogs, their partners have the same rights to bring them into public as people who use guide dogs. I'm the vice president of Assistance Dogs International North America, and I chair our legislative committee. So we've been working with the Department of Transportation for 3 years, and we work to get the airline laws changed so you can't bring all the non-working dogs on there loose anymore. So the emotional support animals, which could be any species, those are all the peacocks and the pigs. They're no longer allowed to travel as working dogs. So it's made air travel safer for people with legitimate guide dogs and service dogs.
One other question. Tell us about your training facility and how you arrange your staff.
Thank you. We have 6 acres in Dripping Springs, and we've been out there since 2004. We have every trainer work with every dog. So when the dog transfers to a client, they're not as focused on that one trainer they've been with their whole lives. We use only positive training. It's called positive reinforcement based operant conditioning. So we don't use choke chains. We don't choke the dog or punish it when it makes a mistake or if it does something wrong. We have other ways to either teach it better or redirect a behavior we don't want. Like traditional training, which sort of comes from the military German background, is like if a dog jumps on you, you knee it in the chest and shove it off of you. And what we do is we teach our dogs to lay down, and every time they lay down, they're rewarded for it. So you can't lay down and jump on someone at the same time. So they're laying down instead of jumping, or they're giving you eye contact instead of chasing a squirrel or eating food off the floor. So it's the way that they train a lot of the bigger animals like marine whales and big cats and wolves and birds. You can't really punish a bird because you usually murder it and then you get another bird. So this kind of behavior is a lot more successful. And when you have clients that don't have arm use, they might be quadriplegic. They can't use physical corrections on the dogs anyway. So this is a good way to get the dog motivated to want to help you. The training is after the person's applied for a dog. Eventually we match them with a dog. We interview them to see if they have any new things they want the dog to do. What is their lifestyle? How big are they in their wheelchair so we can fit the dog to the person's frame so the dog can deliver items to their lap. And then we spend another couple of months training the specialty behaviors like Ray was talking about, fetching his medical bag. We have a week of training at our center, which is like the guide dog method, but then we move the dog into the client's home and spend 3 more months working with them in their home and community in weekly lessons. So the dog learns to open their refrigerator, which opens from the other direction, and they get a lot of time together working in restaurants and stores and places like that. So we know their public behavior is real sound. And we recertify every team annually and check their weight, and we're always there if the person needs anything in between. We want to always be ready to answer their questions and add more training or give suggestions if they need help. And our clients have taught us a lot of things too. All of that laundry stuff is stuff that clients have enough tools to create their own behavior. So we learn from the clients as much as they learn from us.
Do you still collect men's neckties for opening doors?
We used to do that. We still have those men's neckties. Our doors are levers and you have to have a tug on them. So we just take old neckties. The 1970s are good because they're wider. And we make a little loop and a noose, a knot, and you can tug on that. Our big event is the Mighty Texas Dog Walk. And it's won 8 Guinness World Records. We were talking about that earlier, or I was with somebody. And it's the 21st year. It'll be at Camp Maybury, November 14th, which is Veterans Day weekend. So it's about 100 people volunteer event. It should attract about 2,000 people walking their own dogs. And this year the theme is Dogs Are Magic. And the world record attempt is the most people and animals performing a magic trick at the same time, led by Ray Anderson, who's the magician at Esther's Follies downtown.
Wow.
And it's a great event because we have so many generous sponsors like Purina and Petco, all the big dog food companies. They are giving out bags of food and bags of dog treats. So people will come in and leave with 2 tote bags loaded up with things. And we're very excited to be partnering with Camp Maybury this year because we'll be able to be on grass. We're on the parade ground, so they'll have the military aircraft models. So it'll be a very attractive setting for all of our guests. And I think Mr. Ruiz had a question.
Yes, I was wondering, are there state requirements that you have to meet in order to provide your services? Being an attorney, I was wondering if you have to deal with any state requirements.
No, the Assistance Dogs International tries to set industry standards, and their goal, they're about 40 years old. Their goal was to self-regulate so the government wouldn't have to step in. So currently in Texas, and I helped write the 1995 amendments to the Texas statute, there are no standards of training. There are ways they define aggression and things like that, but there's no, the training industry is not regulated. Even the vest we put on the dog is not required by the state law or the Americans with Disabilities Act. The industry does that to help the public distinguish the dog from a pet, but you can buy those vests online, unfortunately. So there are some fraudulent folks out there, but the main way to figure it out is just look at the dog's behavior. If it's acting like an idiot, it's probably a fake service dog. So we spend a lot of time working in public. So, and the goal, the dog doesn't have to be a machine, but we want the client to be able to have the dog under control. And if the dog occasionally has a misstep, the client can get it back under control pretty easily. Ray, do you want to talk about working in public?
Yeah, I was going to say, when I go to the post office or anything's not an old doorknob, this is what I use right here. This goes into the loop of the door, and then she tugs on it, tell her tug, she opens the door, I take it off.
Hold that up, hold it still.
What?
Can you hold up that thing and hold it still so they get...
It's a, wait a minute, let me get this out of here. It's just a cabina clip, and it's been, I got a big one and cut the little lip off of it, the latch. Got a rope on it, not for her to grab, and she pulls on that and the door opens. Carry that with me where I go. If I've got another one that loop over a regular doorknob, and if I open the doorknob, she'll pull the door open. But she can't pull it without me turning the knob. But there's not many of those left anymore. So that's how we open doors. I'm sorry, go ahead.
What other?
And Ray?
Yes.
Ray, how long have you worked with Beatrice, and have you noticed that she learns and can do things to assist you that maybe she was not trained to do when you got her?
Yes, sir. I've had her about, what, 5-6 months now, Sheri?
Yes.
And I am the first man she's ever done anything with, basically. All of her trainers are female, and my voice is deeper than theirs, but it took a while for her to accept me as a, I don't know if it's being a male or what, but now we're buds. We don't do anything. Everywhere I go, she goes. And by the way, you're talking about airplanes. If I go on an airplane, she rides in the seat next to me, no charge. Now that's pretty cool. Huh?
She's supposed to be on the floor.
Well, they said somebody sitting there, she's sitting in the chair next to me, but yeah,
okay.
The book said the floor. That's I've had no problem. No one's ever challenged me going into a restaurant or a store. So far so good. But yes, she is learning stuff that I did not teach her. Of course, I don't know what all of her capabilities are either, because she went through blind school. Might be reminiscing some of the stuff there close to what I'm doing. She's something. Couldn't live without her.
Mr. Martinez?
Yes. On you say domestic dogs, on how do they deal with the kids that come to visit, or the parents or children that come to visit? How do they deal with that?
Ray, do you have visitors, and how does Beatrice deal with visitors?
She's a very, very friendly dog, sometimes too friendly. That's the hardest thing for me is Beatrice is not a pet. I can't treat her like a pet. If she brings her the ball and wants to go play, no, we're not going to go play now. Sorry, put it back. She'll go put it back in her box. 5, 10, 15 minutes later, I'll say, hey, let's go play ball. Same thing about food. She can't eat till I tell her to eat. She sits there and looks at me for 20, 30 seconds, whatever long she wants to do it, until I tell her to eat. Everything she does is by my command and my command only. Therefore, she depends on me. And every time I tell her to do something, I get a treat. But no, she does nothing on her own. She can't, I can't let her do that. And that really bothers me, that she's not a pet. Now, getting back to the visitors, I live out in the country. I get 3, 4 people a week to come to my house. And she's wants to not sniff, but she wants to play. She wants you to pet her. And she's not supposed to do that till I let her go free. And it's hard not to, she's so excited. That's the hardest thing of these dogs is not to show you love like you do a pet. I show her, but anyway. So yes, I'm learning from her, and she's learning from me.
So they end up getting everything they want, but it has to be once the partner says it's okay. So
hard.
That way they're not breaking out of something they're supposed to be doing to go solicit attention.
Oh, and one more thing is, this really upset me when I found out. It didn't upset me, but I cannot have another dog. When you got a service dog, you cannot have another dog. You can have a cat, squirrel, birds, I don't care, but you can't have another dog. And when I was waiting on Beatrice, I was gonna get another dog. And they told me, you can't have 2 dogs. So I couldn't give one away. So I just went for 6 months without having a dog. And that was as long as ever been in my life. Well, service. But,
that's because we want the dog to be focused on the partner and not distracted by the other animal. Even people, when their working dogs overlap, it's a little bit of a extra strain on the animals.
But she does have
Let's say good for success.
Friends. She has a couple of friends she has play days with.
Yes, Mr. Armstrong. And if I'm not seeing your hand, oh, and I see Miss Summers has a question too, but let's do, I think we have time for both of you. So I noticed Mr. Armstrong first, then we can get Glenda.
Okay.
This sounds somewhat trivial, but I'm kind of trying to picture your facility. But Sheri, try questions. Roughly how many staff members do you have, and how many dogs are you training at one time? And is there an increased demand for this type of service dog?
Yes, we're ramping back up after COVID. So we have 2 kennel buildings with room for 18 dogs. And right now we have 8 to 10. So we're going out once a week to go look at the shelters. We're supposed to get another dog or 2 from the guide dog school, but they have kennel cough, so that got delayed. We had 2 trainers leave. One moved out of state to her home state of Colorado, and one went to go work for a pet dog trainer. So we're going to be hiring some more training staff. Typically at our height, we have 7 trainers and about 18 dogs. One of the trainers is usually on the road doing that in-home training. So every trainer can usually handle 4 or 5 dogs. And the goal is to get up to 30 dogs a year. And so we can't compare ourselves to a giant group. So we're not really like a Walmart of service dogs. We're more like an artisan. We're training them individually for each animal and each client, but we're proud of that.
You're a boutique.
Is there an increase in the demand now that the pandemic is eased somewhat, even though I know we're about to see another surge, but I'm just curious, at the peak, was there growing demand?
In the last month, we had 20 new applications. So not everybody completes them, but we did get 20 new ones in.
Wow.
And Glenda, what were you curious about?
Could you tell us some more about the fundraiser at Camp Mayberry? I don't have a dog, but I'd like to come and help in any way.
Thank you.
As far as fundraising.
Sure. Our website is servicedogs.org. And if you just go there, there's a tab that says Mighty Texas Dog Walk, and it has the date and all of that. If you want to volunteer, so if you go to the dog walk page, you can register to bring your dog to the dog walk. And we have a VIP that has catering and some extra luxuries. If you want to volunteer, there's an email to our volunteer coordinator. The email is office@servicedogs.org. Or there's a tab on the website that says volunteer as well. And we use volunteers before and during the event. Before might be for bag stuffing or for packet pickup. Like we'll be at some of the Petcos where people come in and get their goodie bag and their t-shirt. And on site, it's typical. It's basically like a parade and a farmer's market together. There's a 1 mile walk and then all the booths are set up. So we need help the day before helping the sponsors set up their booths. And then during the day, like the water stops and handing out gold medals at the finish line. Every dog gets a gold dog tag and assorted things like that. And we have other volunteer opportunities also. One of the things we really welcome is people who want to take a dog home for the weekend or over a holiday, foster families, because it helps the dog a lot to get out from the kennel when it's not being trained. So over the weekends, it's great to have somebody come get the dog and we'll meet you somewhere. You don't have to come all the way out to Dripping.
Do you have any other funding, or is it all from this particular event?
The funding is the typical nonprofit, and I'm in charge of that. So we write to foundations for grants. We have individual donations. We have a planned giving program. So occasionally somebody remembers us with a bequest. We have a trainers academy. We had to skip this year, but it has a little bit of funds. Professional trainers come and train, but it's basically the main nonprofit things. It's individual donations, the special event of the dog walk, and grant writing. We don't yet have a national sponsor. Like there's not a dog food company that sponsors us all year long like you see with Milk-Bone dog biscuits, that sort of thing. But we continue to try that sort of thing too.
Very interesting.
I see JP.
Yes, ma'am. Sheri, thank you for your presentation and for the work you're doing. I'm curious if you might give us a little elaboration on the qualification process that clients go through and how you actually physically place a dog with certain clients.
Sure, and Ray can comment too if he wants to. He's asking about the application process. Online, you fill out a little form and we can at least screen you because some people want a dog that does something we don't train for, or they live out of state. But after that, they get a form. We have a medical history form for their doctor and a letter of reference. And we do criminal background check on everybody as well. You never do stuff till you learn the hard way. So then you start doing it. So we've been doing that for 10 years or so. When we get all of that, we have an applicant orientation. And I believe Ray came to that, where everybody comes to the training center for a day and we provide lunch. We do some presentations so they understand this dog is not Lassie. It's not a robot. So if you do leave your sandwich on the coffee table all day, the dog might actually eat it. So we're trying to give them a reality check so they know what they're getting into. We have a mini training session with the dogs, and then we have a breakout session for the family so they can ask questions. And after that, we decide if the person's going to be accepted to the program. While they're on the wait list, they get a workbook that's 20 chapters. They get one chapter at a time so they can start learning about the training and the care of the dog. So this helps prepare them for when they actually start their training. Ray, do you want to add anything to that?
I went there for the orientation, and as I was filling my paper, this big fat cat jumps up on the table. I'm the only one in this huge room, walks over and lays down on the application. I couldn't get him off the application, so I called Dina. Dina came back and said, ran him off my application. But I was wondering what that cat was doing in there. Now I realize why. She's a cat. She doesn't even pay attention to it. But Fred got me in the program. And
the cat.
I didn't talk for quite a while because of COVID. Y'all weren't doing anything for when it first started. Y'all didn't do anything. And I was about 6 months late on my dog, I think. Long time.
The cat is on the staff. The cat's name is Tony, and it's a boy, but he is a jerk because he's a cat. And he's there to help us see how the dogs act around cats. So he'll walk by and we can see if the dog is calm around the cat. We can reward the dog for ignoring the cat, things like that. He's not that nice of a cat, but he's a staff cat. And it's very helpful. So unfortunately, he also menaces the clients and the staff. So we all know where the first aid box is. Yes, Mr. Rees?
Yeah, I just want to make a comment. I love that about the cat. The comment is dogs have masters, cats have slaves.
Yeah, I'm a cat person, so yes, ma'am.
Tell us the kind of disabilities you train for. When I last visited some many years ago, I remember ISIS, and ISIS was being trained for someone who had hemiparesis, and ISIS was a large Great Dane, and she was trained to stabilize the gait of the person who had the stroke.
Right. ISIS was matched with somebody who had Parkinson's.
Oh, that's right.
Gary, he was the architecture at UT. He like restored the student union and a lot of beautiful projects like that in the 90s. They were a wonderful couple. We try to train for anything if we can figure out how. So the main things are spinal cord injury, cerebral palsy, muscular dystrophy, multiple sclerosis. We've trained for people who have seizures where they just fall all of a sudden and the dog helps them. It goes and gets help. Sometimes people just come with something we've never heard of and we try to figure out a way to make it work. Which reminds me, we trained a dog for a woman with rheumatoid arthritis, and she couldn't really use her fingers, so she couldn't unzip her sweatshirt jacket. So we taught the dog, we put a longer tab on the zipper and the dog could unzip the jacket for her. Yes, Ray?
She removes my coat because I have two, I didn't mention that earlier. Both my shoulders have been replaced. I have two artificial shoulders. I can't take my coat off on the right shoulder. I tell her I take one sleeve off, she pulls it off this arm and she pulls it off that arm. At night, she pulls my pants off and she pulls my sock off. She helped me dress and I didn't realize how limited I was till I got hurt. The only thing about the socks is you got to make sure your toes are back a little bit, because when she grabs that sock, if your toes in that front, she will get you. But she undresses me. That's one of the things y'all taught her.
Yeah, that's just based on tugging off a sock, tugging off a jacket. Thank you, Ray. I forgot about that. We had one dog that the gentleman, he had spinal cord tumors, Van Hippel syndrome, and he fell into his bathtub because he leaned over and he got it pressed on the spinal cord and he passed out in the running water and the dog pulled him out. So we had another dog that the lady, a woman was sitting in a porch swing and the beam came and hit her on the head and knocked her out, and the dog kept licking her until she came to and helped. Another thing the dog can do is you can brace on the dog's hip and shoulders. If you fall out of your chair or if you're on the ground, you can brace on the dog's back over the little support beams, the arms and the two sets of legs, and get back up into the wheelchair or up onto the chair. So the paramedic said if she would have been passed out longer, she probably would have passed away from lack of oxygen. So we have dogs that, because of the training we use, where the dog's not afraid of you, even if you can't control the dog, they'll try to problem solve and help you. Yes, Patricia?
Yes, do you rehome retired service dogs?
If we do that on a case-by-case basis, typically everybody wants to keep their dog for its lifetime. If a client passes away or there's some reason they can't keep the dog and it's too old to place with another client, we will adopt it out as a pet. Also, if we adopt a dog that needs surgery, even if we can't use it as a service dog because it's just plastic, we'll pay all the medical bills. If a client has a lot of trouble paying a medical bill, we'll help with those too. We just, this year, a client ate someone's gloves, not B, and needed $3,500 operation. The client was calling me at 9:30 at night crying, and I said, we'll pay for that. And it's not because we're rich, it's because it's my responsibility. And I always feel if it was our last dollar, we're gonna spend it on helping a dog so it's not gonna be in pain.
Go ahead.
What prompted you to go into this service dog environment?
Well, as a trial lawyer, I was always fighting with people and thinking this is a horrible way to make a living because I don't really like combative. I can do it, but it was stressful. This was before the internet, so I kept thinking there's got to be something else. And I saw a magazine on a doctor's coffee table, the eye doctor, because when you're a lawyer, as they say, the large print giveth and the fine print taketh away. So your eyesight's always getting worse. So I was at the eye doctor, and there was a magazine with an article about dogs that helped people with disabilities. And at the very end of the article, it said some groups use shelter dogs. And that caught my interest originally. So I ripped the article out and wrote to the people in the article, and that's what got me started. And my parents had just, I hadn't been out of law school that long, and they were a little discombobulated since they paid for it. And they used to say, I think she wants to help deaf dogs. And I kept saying, that's not right, but okay. So they keep saying, we're surprised anybody ever gives you any money, but that's how parents are. So, and they have never, but they're wonderful moral support. My mom actually called while I was on the meeting with you, so I'm going to call her back, but we talk every Sunday, so that's nice. And I have to call her mommy, and I'm 62, so that's fun, but it's nice. I'm not going to call her Beverly. That's weird. Sorry, Glenda, I got a little off track there.
No. It's fascinating. It's just fascinating how people choose their careers and what motivates people. This has been very, very, very interesting. Does anybody else have any questions?
It looks like Patricia understands sign language. Do you sign, Patricia?
No, but Cody does, and I know a few signs.
Well, the sign for embarrassed is you do your hands up like this. It's like the red getting on your going up your face. And when I was talking about my mother, I could feel my face getting red. Part of it's Maybelline, but part of it was just blood. Ray, do you want to add anything? Did you want to tell a story about your wife and her connection to Beatrice?
What?
Your wife, Betty, and her nickname?
Yeah, that was, when they told me her name was Beatrice, I said, I always heard that when you train a dog, you want like a one-syllable word. It's just easier on them. Beatrice is 3 syllables. I said, that's a little long. Of course, I was a layman. I didn't know what I was doing. They said, well, we call her B. Well, that was my wife's name was B. Really hit home, and she said her name was B. And I was going to change the name, so I found that. And wow. I know my wife, she's looking down on me right now, and she's very happy with this dog. Very happy.
I have the feeling we went over our 20 minutes, so I want to offer to stop if y'all need us to, but we can continue if you want to hear more stories.
I think we're fine for a few more minutes. If anybody else has anything before we proceed. Looks like Roberto has a question.
No, I just want to say those were wonderful stories, and thank you very much.
Absolutely.
And you didn't go out of time because you started earlier. That was great.
Yeah, that was fine. Just great. Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
We always, oh, yes, ma'am.
The only other story which struck me when we went to visit the facilities several years ago was about those yappy dachshunds. They're the best hearing alert dogs they have, but we've had dachshunds, so I really could identify with them.
Yeah, we don't need the dog to bark to alert people because they're deaf. So we tend to let those guys go out as pets, and we try to adopt a dog that's not going to be yappy. Ray, were you going to say something?
Yeah, when I was there, I noticed 99% of the dogs were labs, like mine. Is that's basically what you do, labs, right?
Well, the labs were all from the guide dog school. So
okay, that's what it is.
Because the shelters closed down during COVID, so it was harder to go look at dogs.
Oh, labs, okay.
Yes.
One other thing I'll say is that we have a member who is a puppy trainer for guide dogs and is due to turn his dog in September and get another one. Daisy is, and Daisy's been at many of our meetings. I don't think she's here today.
That's wonderful. I see Greg Dew has a dog, a leader dog on his avatar. Mr. Martinez, did you have another question?
Well, I just want to say that you don't train dogs. You help people who with disability enjoy life.
Tienes razón.
Sheri, I was trying to recall what you said about the preferred breed for training, even though they're shelter dogs. Did you say that they're Labrador retrievers primarily, or is that the favored or one of the most effective?
We go by the temperament, not the breed. So over the years, we've trained labs, we've trained full-coated collies, like Lassie flat-coated collies, where they have smooth coats or smooth-coated collies, Australian Shepherds, a Doberman, a couple of boxers and golden retrievers. We used to do a lot of them. They don't show up in shelters much anymore because the rescue groups pull them. The hearing dogs, a hearing dog is like a drug dog or a bomb dog. It's getting its cue from the environment, not the handler. So it has to be on the alert. A lot, schnauzers, Boston Terriers, Spaniel mixes. Labs happen to be really good at this type of work because they like people and they like to retrieve. So we have lab mixes. The 2 dogs we just adopted last week, one is a Catahoula and one looks like some sort of Shepherd or Malinois Pyrenees mix.
I wonder if you have this problem. My family and I always had yellow labs and loved them. They became members of the family. We kept them too long. Even the vets would say he or she really needs to just get to go to dog heaven, but they would become very disabled. How do you handle if someone has had a dog such as labs that, as you know, their hips go out and then they have a trouble handling internal organs? Have you had situations where the dog became older or disabled? And how do you handle that situation?
Usually the clients are very invested in the dog's quality of life. So they will start talking to us when they start seeing the dog go downhill, and we'll discuss when is the dog's quality of life compromised to the point where it's time to let it go. Typically, they want to keep the dog because they're so bonded with it. We've never had to say, he's suffering because you won't make that decision. They're very responsible about not putting their own feelings above the dog's well-being. And when they apply for their next dog, now about 15 years into it, people start applying for their second dog. So we have people now who've gotten 3 dogs from us, but we do talk about it ahead of time. And because we recertify the dog every year, often we're checking in between that. We can make sure the dog is doing all right, that its weight in the contract, the dog has to be within 5 pounds of the weight that it is when they get it. And we retain legal ownership of the dog. So if the dog is ever in a bad situation, we'll pull the dog back. We had to do that recently, but now it's been about 6 or 7 times over 33 years.
Wow.
But we keep ownership so we can protect the dog in the rare case that has to happen.
Thank you.
Because the first 3 months we're going there every week anyway, so we pretty much get a good idea of what's going on in the household.
Right. I got to ask you, as a lawyer, I am curious if you missed the law, or secondly, if you have found that your legal training and background has been helpful in your work with service dogs.
I did not miss it at all. I was thrilled to get out of it. The last year I worked on an appellate court as a briefing attorney for an appellate judge, and that's more civilized. Trial laws is the Wild West where people object all the time, and it's just a bunch of theatrics at times. And when you're a baby lawyer like I was, you're always matched against somebody who's got more experience. So it was a little hard. It was being thrown in the deep end. This is nice because everybody wins. The way that the legal background helped was when I started working on legislative issues in the state and with the Department of Transportation, which was the Air Carrier Access Act. It just means you can read and don't chew and talk at the same time, chew with your mouth closed, just basic etiquette. Right. Wear a suit if you want to look like wear dark colors if you want to know what you look like you're doing, that sort of thing. So you can come off as more polished, but not to disrespect any lawyers. But to me, law school is like just a very glorified vocational school. So it's for people who couldn't get into medical school, at least in my family. So it's very specialized. if you're a trial lawyer, you just go in there and try to seduce the jury and get them to sympathize with your client, which our clients were delightful. I never was a lawyer that did contracts or that type of thing, but I can read. And the main thing, as a lawyer, the main thing that helped me, John, actually is when you're creating a trial, you're like the hub of the wheel and you get expert witnesses in every topic that you need help on, like the engineer and the medical person. So when I've been building this organization, I thought, I don't have to know anything. I'll just get people who know how to do each thing I need help on. And that's been a really great way to do it. Because if you don't know, somebody else does. And I have no ego because I have cats. So I'm always happy to ask somebody who's good at something to give me some help.
Sheri, thank you so much. We do need to move on. Does anybody else have any questions they have to ask right now before we move on?
No, I do. I have a comment. The comment is that it has been said that when lawyers graduate, the deficit increases.
That sounds like math.
Well, thank you. This has been fascinating, just fascinating. And we appreciate so much you're sharing this story with us.
And Min has my email and all of that if anybody needs to reach us with anything.
Great. We need to talk about next week's program. Sam, are you in charge of next week's program?
Yes, ma'am.
Would you tell us about next week's program?
Yes, the guest we're going to have is a researcher, ophthalmologist. She's invested a lot of time in research, and her name is Dr. Ninel Grigori, and she likes to be called Nell, so we'll go with that. But she is very, very qualified to provide all types of different types of surgeries, primarily to inherited eye concerns that are people that are going blind because they have been inherited a gene from a family member, primarily the mother or father, and she works on trying to restore. She is one of the 12 doctors in the United States that's doing special research, and maybe she might talk about it. And the program, it says Argus 2 implants. She implants this camera at the retina, at the behind the eye, to help these people that are blind be able to see. And only the manufacturer has produced 12 sites, one in Dallas and one at Bascom Palmer, where she works, to do the special surgery. And this Argus 2 camera cost over $400,000. So that's how well she is respected. But anyway, she will be talking to us at our level about what's going on with eyes.
Thank you. That sounds interesting too. Patty is wanting to talk with us for a few minutes. I want to remind y'all tonight at the Moon Tower Saloon to be sure to bring your masks. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I hope everybody can come and invite a friend. That's a wonderful way to get to know people.
Your mask
Patty.
and your old shoes.
The mask and shoes, right. Okay, Patty, what did you want to tell us?
Yes, I'm going to bring tickets if anybody wants to come prepared to buy tickets for the casino night. Also, I have forms that you can fill out, fill out for sponsors. If you have any sponsors for casino night, and you can pay by credit card if we use the form. You can put your credit card information on the form just to buy tickets.
I had in my notes also to bring the door prizes we have. Do you want us to bring our door prizes, or does it depend on the size of it, and et cetera?
Well, it would depend on the size if you're bringing something enormous. But if it'll fit in my back seat, I'll take it.
Okay. Judy.
Yeah, I'd like to extend a challenge to everyone. It's coming tonight to the social to bring all of your plastic and see if we can fill Glenda's car up with plastic.
Oh, Judy, that's great. Sheri, what we're doing is we're collecting that plastic that tears, and we have to collect 500 pounds. And I've got about 9 pounds in my garage right now. But I went to Walmart and found a little machine, a luggage weigher for $10. So I will be happy to weigh anybody's plastic that needs it weighed. Yes, ma'am.
Judy, can you bring any of the eyeglass recycling boxes? I have some new places I'd like to put some of them.
I don't have any yet. As soon as I get some, I'll get some to you.
Thank you. Patty, what did you mean about you have a bunch of eyeglasses? What do you want us to do about that?
JP mentioned he was going to take some to Kerrville, so I thought I'd just let him unload my car.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I have more room for prizes.
Roberto.
Yes, here's an opportunity to explain to Sheri what the plastic program is, and maybe they can help us. So explain to Sheri what the best plastic program is.
What we're doing, as I said, we're collecting 500 pounds of this plastic, plastic that tears, that can't be used in the normal recycling. And once we get 500 pounds, Greg, what's the name?
The name of it's Trex. I actually made a note. I thought I'd give Sheri a call after the meeting sometime and talk about it. I want to catch one thing. It's plastic that doesn't tear.
Yeah.
If it tears like paper, we can't recycle it. It's the stretchy, thin plastic like the old grocery bags.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Food plastic wrap or something like that. It's plastic that can't go in at least in Austin, in the recycling. But we collect it and report it through a community program to Trex that manufactures the composite decking. And if we collect 500 pounds of it, or when we collect 500 pounds of it, they'll donate a bench for us to place at the location of our choosing in the community. So it's a way to recycle the plastic as well as provide the community service.
And the bench is made out of that plastic, is that correct?
It's made from that recycled material, not necessarily our 500 pounds, but yeah, it's the same Trex composite decking material that the bench is made out of.
It looks like wood. Beautiful.
Linda, question?
Greg, were you going to send out the poster with all of the kinds of plastic or all the samples?
Yes, we're working on that.
Okay.
Rue, there's a very good website that Nick's Trex has, and it has good illustrations of what can be used in this program.
That's where we're getting the material. That is the program that we're in. It's called Next Trex.
Put that in the chat. Everyone who's on a computer can go to that website and get the list of items. Ziploc bags are great.
Yeah. Ray has a question.
What is the name of this company? I'm Long Lions Club. That sounds like a good deal to get in on if I can, if y'all don't mind. What's the name of this company? Or who do I call to get in touch with these people?
Ray, you can give me a call. I'll give you all the information about it. The company is the Trex Corporation.
Okay.
TREX.
TREX Corporation.
Right. Okay. And it's called the Next Trex program. It's community recycling program.
And I think Greg is looking for someone to spearhead this, someone to be in charge. Someone who's really excited about the program.
Yeah, I've had a couple of volunteers and still looking for some more.
Good.
Greg, do you and Ray have a way to exchange phone numbers?
I can give it to him right now.
I'll call you and ask for his number.
Yeah.
Well, give me your number, Greg, please.
Yeah, it's 512.
Okay.
413.
Okay.
9490.
9490. Thank you, Greg. Appreciate that.
And anybody else can use that too, except for Tommy.
Greg, do you need my phone number? You said you wanted to call.
Yeah, I was just going to go to the website or the email, but I'd be happy to take it now if you
want.
want.
I'll give you my cell number. if you have a writing implement.
I do.
512-680-4009.
All right. Thanks, Sheri.
Well, I want to remind everybody of a couple of dates that we have. Be sure to put them on your calendar. Obviously, tonight's social at the Tower Saloon, Moon Tower Saloon at 5:30. August the 5th is Harry Wickersham Golf Tournament, benefiting Texas Lions Camp. August 28th is the birthday party at Tommy Cowan's Lake House, and I'm sure he will be giving us more information about that. And September the 17th is a Sporting Clay fundraiser. Ann Ward is the chair. And Patty, September the 24th, Casino Night fundraiser. Patty, you wanted to talk about that for a minute?
Yes, I just wanted to mention that I was going to bring tickets to the Moon Tower Saloon tonight, and people could buy tickets. We're mostly looking for sponsors and donations for prizes.
And how many tickets did you say we have sold so far?
We've sold about 65.
Great. Good start. Good start. Does anybody else have any questions or anything else to discuss before we meet tonight at the Moon Tower? Well, this has been fascinating. I think all of our programs have been so good, and I'm just so grateful for everybody who's helping work on the programs and all the things that they're doing. So if there's nothing else, I say that we adjourn for the time until we see you in a couple hours at 5:30. JP, did you have a question or are you just waving?
Bye.
I think, huh?
Bye.
Bye. Okay. Bye.
Thank y'all.
Thank you, Ray.
It's a wrap.